This is your opportunity to catapult yourself spiritually through the upcoming dry season. We hope to see you there.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. We are back. Continuing with our look at the triennial Torah portion. This week we are going to be looking at Deuteronomy 22. Deuteronomy chapter 22. This chapter is just filled with various laws, right? And we're going to talk about the various things that are within chapter 22. So we'll go ahead. I'll just go ahead and pull that up for us. And we'll go ahead. We'll just read through it. We'll read through it. And then we'll just go back and talk about some of the things that we have inside of the chapter. So let me go ahead and put this up here for us. And you can go ahead and read nice and loud for us. Starting with verse 1.
Says, when you see your brother's ox or his sheep straying away, you shall not hide yourself from them. Return them to your brother without fail. And if your brother is not near you, or if you do not know him, then you shall bring it to your own house, and it shall be with you until your brother seeks it. Then you shall return it to him. And so you do with his donkey, and so you do with his garment, and so you do with whatever your brother loses, which he has lost and you have found. You are not allowed to hide yourself. When you see your brother's donkey or his ox fall down on the way, you shall not hide yourself from them. Help him raise them without fail. A woman does not wear that which pertains to a man, nor does a man put on a woman's garment. For whoever does this is an abomination to Yahweh your Elohim. When you come upon a bird's nest along the way, in any tree or on the ground, with young ones or eggs, with the mother sitting on the young or on the eggs, do not take the mother with the young. Let the mother go without fail, and take the young for yourself, so that it might be well with you, and that you shall prolong your days. When you build a new house, then you shall make a parapet for your roof, so that you do not bring blood guilt on your house when one falls from it. It says, do not sow your vineyard with different kinds of seed, lest the yield of the seed which you have sown and the fruit of your vineyard be defiled. Do not plow with an ox and a donkey together. Do not put on a garment of different kinds of wool and linen together. Make tassels on the four corners of the garment with which you cover yourself. When any man takes a wife and shall go into her and shall hate her, and shall make abusive charges against her, and bring an evil name on her, and say, I took this woman, and when I came to her, I did not find her a maiden. Then the father of the mother of the young woman shall take and bring out the proof of the girl's maidenhood to the elders of the city at that gate. And the girl's father shall say to the elders, I gave my daughter to this man as wife, and he hates her. And see, he has made abusive charges against her, saying, I did not find your daughter a maiden. And yet these are the proofs of my daughter's maidenhood. And they shall spread the garment before the elders of the city, and the elders of that city shall take that man and punish him, and fine him 100 pieces of silver, and give them to the father of the young woman, because he has brought an evil name on a maiden of Israel. And she is to be his wife. He is not allowed to put her away all his days. But if the matter is true, that the girl was not found a maiden, then they shall bring out the girl to the door of her father's house, and the men of her city shall stone her to death with stones, because she has done wickedness in Israel, to whore in her father's house. Thus you shall purge the evil from your midst. When a man is found lying with a woman married to a husband, then both of them shall die, both the man that lay with the woman and the woman. Thus you shall purge the evil from Israel. When a girl who is a maiden is engaged to a husband, and a man finds her in the city and lies with her, then you shall bring them both out to the gate of that city, and shall stone them to death with stones. The girl, because she did not cry out in the city, and the man, because he has humbled his neighbor's wife. Thus you shall purge the evil from your midst. But if a man finds the girl who is engaged in the field, and the man takes hold of her and lies with her, then only the man who lay with her shall die. But you shall do no matter to the girl. The girl has no sin worthy of death, for the matter is like a man who rises against his neighbor and murders him, a being. For he found her in the field, and she cried out, the engaged girl, but without anyone to save her. But when a man finds a girl who is a maiden, who is not engaged, and he seizes her and lies with her, and they are found out, then the man who lay with her shall give to the girl's father 50 pieces of silver, and she is to be his wife, because he has humbled her. He is not allowed to put her away all his days. A man does not take his father's wife, nor uncover his father's skirt.
Okay, very good. Very good. All right, so let's go back up here to the top. Get verse 1. Okay, so we look over here. A few things I want to talk about. First of all, when we look at verse 1, before you even get to what the actual commandment is, right? It talks to you about who it is pertaining to, right? When you see your brothers, this or that. It's talking about ox or sheep, straying, right? But when you see your brothers, right? And so when we look at this here, let me pull this up here. Because it's just not random, just not somebody's something or other that's gone astray, right? This person that you don't really, that you don't have any connection to. It says when you see your brothers, right? And I think that part of it is something that is important, right? Because it's not just a random thing, right? A random individual, right? It is your ak, right? Let's see what this says over here. Okay, your brother in the widest sense of literal relationship and metaphorical affinity, resemblance, like another brother, kindred, like other. And so some translations translate this as your countrymen. What we see over here is kindred, it's brother, it's your like, right? It's one that is, that you are like unto. It's interesting when we look over here. Let's go over to Matthew's. What Yeshua says in Matthew's 12. Read this right here, 12 and 40. Oh, sorry. That's Mark. I need Matthew. 47 through 50.
He says, and one said to him, "See, your mother and your brothers are standing outside, seeking to speak with you." But he answering said to the one who spoke to him, "Who is my mother, and who are my brothers?" And having stretched out his hand toward his taught ones, he said, See, my mother and my brothers. For whoever does this desire of my Father who is in the heavens is my brother and sister and mother.
Okay, very good. So when we're looking over here, because again, we think about over in Deuteronomy, right? We don't live in the nation, and so when you think about the commandment as it's given, they were able to understand who it is that their brother is, right? Who their countryman is, right? There was the guys that was right over there, and it was all Israel, right? And all of them lived a life that was the same, right? When they saw each other, when they was taking their offerings up to the tent of meetings, right? On the high holy days, they would see one another, right? They were it was a community. They was kindred. It literally was their brother, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting when we look at this. It's things that there's a way that you know that someone actually is your brother, right? When if I saw my brother's ox or his sheep straying away, I would pay attention to that. I wouldn't just be like, oh, that's interesting. There's his ox. It's just going down the street. I wonder if it's going to come back. Right? Just straying away. It says, you shall not see this thing and pay no attention to them. You shall certainly bring them back to your brother. Right? And so you doing that would be you actually treating this person as a brother, right? Because if it was somebody who, wasn't your brother, I gotta say, there's many times that I've seen things happen to random people, and I just kind of just stand by the wayside and just watch the thing happen, because it don't have nothing to do with me. I'm not involved in that, whatever that is that's going on over there. Yeah. But at the same time, now when you think about what it is that the Most High has for us to be doing, sometimes we don't always know. Well, I'm going to say all the time we don't know the future. And so sometimes we don't know what the future holds. And we could be watching our brother's ox or sheep, quote unquote, go astray. And, this actually be our future selves brother, countryman. Let's look over at 2 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians 4. Read verses 1 through 4.
Says, therefore, having this service, even as we receive compassion, we do not lose heart, but have renounced the secret ways of shame, not walking in craftiness, nor falsifying the word of Elohim, but by the manifestation of the truth, recommending ourselves to every human conscience in the sight of Elohim. And indeed, if our good news has been veiled, it has been veiled in those who are perishing, in whom the mighty one of this age has blinded the minds of the unbelieving, so that the enlightening of the good news of the esteem of Messiah, who is in the likeness of Elohim, does not shine on them.
Okay, very good. And so, if our good news, right, if this thing that we have, which is something that's lost from our future selves, brother, something that they've lost, and we hold it back, right? It says that our gospel has been veiled, and it has been veiled in those who are perishing, right? These people are being negatively impacted by the fact that we have this thing, this good news, and we're not sharing it with these people, right? I feel like it's really the same concept. The countryman who loses his ox, he's at a loss. He's at a loss, and he don't know that he's at a loss. He don't know that his thing has escaped. He don't know that his thing has gotten away. Mm-hmm. But you know. Mm-hmm. But it's your responsibility to bring the thing back, or at least let him know that the thing has been lost. Mm-hmm. Right? When you see him with his ox or his sheep that's been falling down on the way, you supposed to help him get that thing up. Mm-hmm. Right? When you see your brother who's in a situation where he's not able to do the thing that he needs to do on his own, you need to go help him to do it. Mm-hmm. You shall not see your countryman's donkey falling down on the way and pay no attention to them. Mm-hmm. It said you shall certainly help him to rise them up. And so when we think about this in terms of, outside of the realm of oxes and sheep, but the idea of people in need of help, and in cases where they don't know that they need help, right? But yeah, there's something that you need to be doing, right? Because when this news that you have that they don't know about is veiled to those that are perishing, as it says over there. Mm-hmm. And when you look in also in verse 4 that we read, the ones that are perishing, it says, in whom the God of this age, they're blinded. their eyes, their mind has been blinded.
Yes. Yes.
Right? So we're talking about these people who are in a state and they don't even realize that they're in a particular state.
It's only you talking about us as a people.
I am talking about us as a people. Absolutely. Right? It's the same thing. Our people, our countrymen, their ox or their sheep has strayed away. And they don't even know it. The thing that allows for them to be able to function daily has strayed away from them. And they don't even know it. They don't realize it. But you see it. You seen it happen because they walked over into your space. And they started grazing on your grass, the ox and the sheep. And then it talks about if it happens and it says if you do not know him, you know it's your brother, but you don't know who he is.
You don't know which one.
It got to be your brothers because of where the thing came from, right? Maybe it got a tribal brand on the back of the ox or something, right? Mm-hmm. You keep that thing until you see your countryman and then restore it to him. Yeah. And so, in other words, you're gonna hold on to that thing and just keep it like it's your own. Mm-hmm. You're not gonna feed your ox and your sheep and then let that one just, die. Right? You're gonna maintain that one as if it was your very own, so that it will be able to be restored back to the person whenever you're able to restore it to them. It's interesting when we look at this thing over here as it's talking about this, this thing that's lost, this thing that you have to take charge of. Yeah. The way it looks over here, you're not chasing the guy down. If you don't know who it is, you're not going out of your way to give it back. Yeah. If you don't know whose it is. But you're keeping that thing and maintaining that thing, and allowing for it to continue to be useful as you wait to see if the thing is ever claimed by its rightful owner. Yeah. And so when we think about this in terms of the gospel, the good news, you don't always know who it is that you need to give this news to. Yeah. But you always have to have that thing ready to give to its rightful owner when he comes around. You always have to know how to deliver this message to the person who needs to receive it. And knowing that, you have to know the message. Right? All of us can't be experts in the whole Bible. Mm-hmm. Yep. Everyone's not called to be a total biblical expert. Yeah. But there's certain things about in these scriptures that every single one of us is responsible for being an expert in. And that is, in fact, this gospel. Yep. The thing that Yeshua has done for you and I, and the thing that he makes possible and available to all those who by faith come unto him. We need to at any moment be ready to hand over to our countrymen that thing that he has lost, that he needs restored in his life so that he's able to function. Yep. somebody need to jump up and run around in the circle right now about this thing that I'm talking about over here. Right? Because, we don't think about this command over here that's dealing with a countryman's ox or his sheep straying away, having to do with the gospel. But it absolutely does in every single way. Because our neighbor's livelihood has escaped from him. Our countrymen's means of living has escaped from him, and he don't even know it. And that thing needs to be restored to him, right? But maybe he's afar off, so you got to keep that thing for him and have it ready to go whenever you cross his path again. And so there's nurturing that's involved. And so when we think about the idea of this nurturing that's involved, again, thinking about it in the context of, the gospel, right? We have to know this thing backwards and forwards. We have to be able to express the gospel, to people at a moment's notice. But we always have to be ready. We always have to be ready to give an answer, right? For this calling that we've been called to. Let's look over at Galatians. We just talking about people losing their oxen and their sheep. Galatians 6. Let's look at the first two verses of Galatians 6. Hold on one second. You go ahead and put your comments over there in the comment section.
The first two, it says, brothers, if a man is overtaken in some trespass, you, the spiritual ones, set such a one straight
it's alliteration over here. Go ahead.
In a spirit of meekness, looking at yourself, lest you be tried too. Bear one another's burdens, and so complete the Torah of Messiah.
Okay, very good. And so this is the same thing we're talking about over here. This is Deuteronomy 22, 1 through 4 over here. Mm-hmm. If a man is overtaken in some trespass, he's not the spiritual one, right? He's the carnal one. Now, he's been taken over, right? But you, the spiritual one, you are able to set things straight in the spirit of meekness in regards to this one, right? Bearing one another's burdens, and so complete the Torah of Messiah, right? These people, the Torah of Messiah is the Torah of Moses in your hearts, right? I can't stand people talking about this law of Christ as if there's this thing that's separate from what the law of Moses is, right? The Torah of Messiah, the law of Christ, is the law of Moses in your hearts, right? And so we're able to be there for those who need us, right? And who have been overtaken in some trespass. Yep. There's something that has happened to a brother, right? Where he needs intervention, right? He needs some outside influence in his situation, right? And you are the one that are responsible for that. Looking at yourself lest you be tried too. Let's look at also Ezekiel.
Yeah.
Ezekiel 33. Ezekiel. Verse 7 through 9. What that say?
7 through 9 says, "And you, son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel, and you shall hear a word from my mouth, and you shall warn them for me. When I say to the wrong, O wrong one, you shall certainly die, and you have not spoken to warn the wrong from his way, that wrong one shall die in his crookedness, and his blood I require at your hand.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have warned the wrong to turn from his way, and he has not turned from his way, he shall die in his crookedness, but you have delivered your being."
Okay, very good. So, when we think about this now, the Most High has spoken to you. He's spoken to you by way of calling you out of darkness into his marvelous light.
Mm-hmm.
He's spoken to you. If all he ever did was bring you out of darkness into his marvelous light, that in and of itself is a warning for all of those who have not come out of darkness into his marvelous light.
Yeah.
And so it becomes a responsibility of you not to be able to defend every single doctrine of the scriptures, like some biblical scholar, right? It's for you to be able actually to defend one particular doctrine in all of the Bible. If we sat up there and thought about all of the things that the Bible teaches, there's thousands of things that the Bible teaches.
Yeah.
But we must be experts at one of those things.
At least one.
At least one of those things. But it's the same thing though. It's not like, there's one thing that's you're an expert at, and there's another thing that somebody else is an expert at. There's one thing that everybody's supposed to be an expert at, and that is this gospel.
Yeah.
Problem is that the gospel is not preached and it's not taught.
And then it's hid.
That's it.
Is hid from those who are lost.
Yeah.
We get into these things, all of these things that we get into, the name, calendars,
Sabbath.
when to keep the Sabbath, how to reckon a day, 14th or the 15th, is chicken unclean, all of these things, women wearing pants, which we'll actually talk about in this Torah portion. All of these things, multiple wives, just whatever. But do we know the message? There's a message, a singular message of the Bible. Do we know it? And can we articulate it properly to someone. If you can't, then there's a problem.
Yep.
Because your countryman's ox or sheep has went astray, and you're not paying attention to them. Even though it says you shall not see your countryman's ox or sheep stray away and pay no attention to them. You've been brought into the light, and there are those that need that light that you've received, but your light is under a bushel. But guess what? If you put a candle, let me just say this. If you, hold on. Let's look at this real quick. I just thought about this. Hold on, let me make this bigger here. Read, I just thought about something interesting about these verses over here. Matthew 5:13 through 16. Read that.
You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt becomes tasteless, how shall it be seasoned? For it is no longer of any use, but to be thrown out and to be trodden down by men.
Okay, stop right there. This interesting thing about salt. The interesting thing about salt is, and I'm sure that young Hiskey is able to understand this because he just was recently looking at the periodic table.
Yep.
And so the thing about salt is it is is structured molecularly in a certain way. And until some chemical process happens to it, unless somebody does some atomic separations, it's going to always be salt.
Yep.
Okay, so it's interesting that Yeshua is speaking this in this way. Because when it comes down to it, the thing that he has done in terms of causing for his followers, his disciples, to be salt of the earth is something that never goes away.
Yeah.
Like once you become salt, you never go to being any other thing. Like that's what you are. Right? You now have a task that you're responsible for forever.
Yeah.
And so when we think about the fact that if salt becomes tasteless, how shall it be seasoned? It no longer has any use. That salt is not being used because of the fact that you, the salt, are not walking out your actual purpose in life. You become useless. Not because you have changed inside of your not because your molecular structure has changed, but you're not being used in the way that you've been created to use.
Yep.
Okay, keep on going. 14
says, you are the light of the world. It is impossible for a city to be hidden on a mountain.
Wait a second. He just said something right there. It's impossible for a city to be hidden that's on a mountain.
Only if they turn all the lights out and it's pitch black because there's no moon outside.
I guess. But even still, if it's a city that's on a mountain, well, I mean, if there's no moon outside, there's a problem. Right? It's either going, I think Yeshua's about to come, right? If there's no, that the moon becomes dark and the sun and the moon become dark. Right? He said it's impossible for the city to be hidden.
Can't hide it.
It can't be hidden. It's up there. 15.
Nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it shines to all those in the house.
Okay, so the thing that I thought about was if you stick a fire under a basket, that's a fire hazard. It could probably catch the basket on fire. It's just gonna make more. It's just gonna make light.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting that Yeshua, in his speaking about what not to do, what to do, and what not to do, you kind of have this, from a functional standpoint, an impossibility
Yeah.
that's incorporated in this. Light's gonna be light. Like that's what you're there to do.
Salt's gonna be salt.
And if you hide the light, it's just gonna catch something on fire and just make more light.
Yep.
Salt is gonna be salt. If you're not using it, it's not because it's not salt anymore, just because you're just not using it for its intended purpose. And so we have to understand that it is, in fact, our intended purpose to actually be able to look around and see that our countryman's ox or sheep has, in fact, gone astray. Not if it happens, it's gonna happen, but when it happens, you can't say nothing. You can't not say anything.
Yeah.
You must, in fact, say something. The Most High has given you a word of warning. He's caused you to be light. He's given you a word of warning, and you must deliver that word. No.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so nobody here has anything to say about that. Very good. All right, so let's keep on going. So let's go over here. Let's drop down to verse 5. I saw some very interesting things. We're going back to Deuteronomy. Back to Deuteronomy 22. I'm going to look at verse 5. Read again for us verse 5.
It says, "A woman does not wear that which pertains to a man, nor does a man put on a woman's garment. For whoever does this is an abomination to Yahweh your Elohim."
Okay, very good. This is, in fact, a very interesting verse. Okay? You know, and I've heard people interpret this to mean that, you know, women, they can't wear pants, right? Also, you know, people who want to wear pants say that, you know, this is about, you know, the warrior's clothes. I'm not sure what Israel's war clothes even look like in the wilderness. I'm just going to say probably that they didn't have war clothes.
In the wilderness. They didn't have a change of clothes.
Yeah, they didn't have a change of clothes.
They went to war wearing the same stuff.
They wore what they wore. You know, we talked about this the other week when we talked about the armor of Elohim. Paul was making a connection with the Roman soldiers' war clothes, right? It wasn't the war clothes of Israel, right? It was the war clothes of, you know, the Roman soldiers, right? And so, you know, what are people even talking about? I think that it's impossible to understand this this verse over here from reading the English. I think it's absolutely impossible to know what it is that this verse is saying for us, you know, when we look at these translations. First of all, when we look at this, a woman. Right? This is a woman. This is an Isha. Right? This is a woman. Does not wear. This word over here, I don't know why this is translated as wear. If we look at this, let's look at this. Like I said, we see woman. We see woman here. We see shall not or lo. Right? This is, what's this? Lo. Right? Shall not. Wear. This word here. Haya. I think it's probably he. I think it's he yea. I think it's he yea in the way that is used here in this sentence. To exist, to be, to become, to accomplish, right? All of these things, right? What? Why is it translated as to wear? Right? When this word that is being used literally means it literally means he shall be. He shall be. So it has to do with what you are. Really. Okay. Oh, what's going on over here? What's going on in the comments sections? At a minimum, not a cross dress. Oh, okay. At a minimum, not a cross dress. Don't try to look like the other sex. Okay. So let's continue. We want to talk about all of the things, right? So we're looking at this, right? Again, the woman is not to be this next word here that's translated as which pertains to, let me get my face out of the way here, which pertains to Kelly.
That's what they say is the warrior clothes or something.
No, that's not it.
That's not it?
This word here is, let's see here, the apparatus, dress, vessel, the container. So you can see where this word here can have more to do with the actual clothes, right? Because you're talking about the vessel, the container, the apparatus to a man. But the thing is that this man over here is not ish. The man, this word that's translated as man, it could read ish. It could say that, which is what the word for man is. But why the inspiration choose to use this word over here? Geber, right? Properly a valiant man or a warrior.
Interesting.
It could generally mean a person, simply, or a man, or a mighty man, right? And again, this word here, its root is to be strong, to prevail, to be mighty, right? And so inspiration is use this word, gebir, instead of ish over here? So why is this word being used? And again, getting to the end of the verse, this thing that they're not supposed to be doing is an abomination to Yahweh. It's a serious thing. Right? And so if we just think about it for a moment, why? Okay, first of all, when we think about the idea of, if we think about this and say that this means pants, it's anachronistic to think about this as meaning pants outside of the time of the thing that is written. Right? So if anachronistic, if we're looking at something that is from the 80s per se, right? If we're looking at something that's written in the 1980s, we can't understand that thing to be written about text messaging, because there was no such thing as text messaging in the 1980s.
Yeah.
Right? When we talk about sending someone mail in the 1980s, we're not talking about email, because there wasn't no email in the 1980s. It's anachronistic to think that if somebody's talking about mailing words to someone in the 1980s, to think about anything other than what we now, even the idea of snail mail only came about after email, because all mail was what we would call now snail mail. Nobody was talking about terrestrial radio in that way before satellite radio came out.
It was just radio.
It was just radio. And so when we look at this and think about this and say, well, this means pants.
How about the phone, telegram?
Right. All of the list can go on and on when we think about things.
We got or when there would be one phone in the house. We got
Right.
that in our hallway.
We have a place where old phone. I always wanted to find a decorative phone to put in that spot over there, because we have it's a spot, it's a designated place where a phone should be.
And a phone book to go in the underneath.
Yes,
It was built into the house.
That's brilliant. Who did that? Why did they? That's fancy. That thing is fancy. But again, we have to be able to look at the things from the time that they're in. When you think about a man's and a woman's clothes, the difference was probably a belt. A man probably wore a belt around his waist, and a woman didn't. And that's the difference. Other than that, it looked the same. Their clothes looked the same. It was as long as each other.
Mm-hmm.
The clothes probably looked exactly the same, except for the man, had something where he was able to gird up his clothes so that he could get down and get dirty if need be.
And
right?
the tassels was on the belt.
The tassels may have been on the belt. Yes. And so, when you think about it in that way, again, what is this thing talking about? And so, Lamza, who is a Aramaic scholar who has translated the Aramaic into English, suggests that it was a military tactic to use women as spies because in the East, women were generally speaking, they were neither searched nor molested, right? But were respected even by bandits.
Wow.
And so a woman could be a spy. Maybe she was carrying some type of thing under her garments or what have you, and will be able to go unchecked. Now, again, it's a possibility. It's plausible to say that this is something that was done. But again, we're talking about this thing that the Most High, He's calling an abomination. He said this thing is an abomination. It's abomination. It's an abomination for this thing to be done. And so we have to be able to look at this part of it and say, is the Most High saying it's an abomination to have these women spies to pretend as if they're a man for purposes of being a spy? This particular thing, this specific thing, is an abomination.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that is what, in fact, this commandment here is referring to. And so we have to be able to look at the essence of what a man is.
Yep.
Right? Because from an essential standpoint, a man is in fact mighty.
Yep.
Right? From an essential standpoint, one thing that kind of represents manliness is power and strength.
Yeah.
Right? This is essentially what he is. And so, men, a man who is a valiant warrior, don't be like a woman, right? Who's more delicate and more, she's this thing. That's a precious thing that should be protected, right? She's not the protector. She's the protected, right? She's not the coverer. She's the covered, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so men don't act like women, and women don't act like men.
Yeah.
This command, I believe, is more about the effeminate man and the masculine woman. It's not about pants, right? It's about what's beneath, right? We have to understand the character of a man and a woman. Because again, we have to think about the severity of this thing. Let's look at some things that are called an abomination in the scripture. It's things that the Most High says are an abomination. I don't want to skip over comments over here. The priest wore breeches as a part of their priestly garments. Yes, the priest had his little kind of boxer shorts that was underneath his garments, right? So that whenever he walked up the steps, that nobody was able to see up underneath of his skirt, right? So he had those undergarments. The priest did, right? But that's what the priest wore. But that's not necessarily what all the people wore,
Yeah.
right? But the priest did, yes, indeed, have those boxers. I'm calling them boxers. That's anachronistic, right? They didn't have boxers in those times, right? All right, so let's go over to Leviticus 11 because we want to talk about things that the Most High calls an abomination. Leviticus 11. Leviticus chapter 11 is about foods, right? It's the things that you put inside of your body. 11 verse 11. What's that say? Read 10 and 11.
But all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, all that move in the waters, or any living being which is in the waters, they are an abomination to you.
11 too.
They are an abomination to you. Of their flesh you do not eat, and their carcasses you abominate.
Okay, so these things. Okay, so let's think about this now. These things that the Most High has created for a particular purpose, he said it's an they are an abomination to you to treat those things the way that he did not create for them to be created.
Yeah.
That's an abomination. Right? These things that don't have fins and scales, that are in the sea, that move along the waters, they are an abomination to you in regards to foods. He didn't create them for food, so you don't eat them for food. They are abomination to you. Don't eat them. And their carcasses you abominate. Okay, so when we think about these things that the Most High calls an abomination, it deals with using these things outside of their intended purposes.
Yeah.
That's one example of what the Most High calls an abomination. Let's look at, and we see this throughout Leviticus chapter 11 in terms of these things that are not called foods, that he don't want for us to be eating and treating as foods. Let's go over to Leviticus 18. We want to see examples of what the Most High says is an abomination. Read verse 22.
22. And do not lie with a male as with a woman. It is an abomination.
Do not lie with the woman. With the man as you would with the woman if you're a man. That's an abomination. We're talking about the misuse of things outside of their created purpose. He's calling those things an abomination.
Yeah.
Don't misuse food outside of its intended purpose. To do so is an abomination. Don't misuse a man outside of his intended use, as if you would deal with a woman. That is an abomination. Gayness, right, is an abomination. That's what we see over here. 20, Leviticus 20 and 13. 20 and 13. Verse 13.
And a man who lies with a male as he lies with a woman, both of them have done an abomination. They shall certainly be put to death. Their blood is upon them.
It's an abomination, right? It's called an abomination. It's this thing. Hold on. This thing. Let's see what this is. 13. Abomination. This toeba. It's abomination. It's disgusting morally. It's an abhorrence, right? Especially idolatry. Abominable. It's an abominable custom. It's an abominable thing, right? It's interesting that idolatry is inside of this thing, right? But this thing is a loathed, detestable thing, right? It's this hated thing that the Most High hates.
You don't like.
I just want to say that I don't think that pants is at the bottom of what this command is about. I'm saying that there's women pants. I'm saying that there's women's pants. And there's man's pants.
Well, then now they starting to get blurred.
Well,
You know they want them to be tight.
I'm saying there was a time that you were able to distinguish between the two. There's people that's walking around here in women's pants
Don't even know it.
and don't even know it. But what I'm saying is that the thing that I believe that the Most High is prohibiting, the prohibition that we're seeing over here deals more with a woman being a man
Trying
and a man being a woman, because we got to go back to the word, which means to be, that we looked at, right? And so it's more than just the clothes, because the clothes look the same again. And if we're going to talk about what this one commentator brings up in terms of this military tactic, again, that may have been something that was a possibility for someone to do, but is that the thing that the Most High is calling it an abominable practice? I think the greater thing to deal with is to understand the essential distinctions that the Most High has put between a man and a woman. Men don't be like a woman. Women don't be like a man.
Yep. So goes that.
There's a way that a woman can wear pants where she's kind of looking like a man.
Yep.
If we're going to say that, then that's one thing. But just in general, just the idea of it, I don't know that it's that. I would say that we say that a woman shouldn't wear tight pants not because of this, but for purposes of modesty. We shouldn't be having our parts on display.
You say that about a man wearing tight pants too.
You can say that about a man wearing tight pants as well. Now we live in a society where that's, it's kind of a thing for a man to wear tight pants. Or someone who calls himself a man to wear tight pants. But I think what we see over here again is that the Most High don't want for the distinctions that He created to be blurred.
Yep.
Kind of like what we're doing what they're doing in this society today.
We're mixing clothes departments now, where it's not like there's a boys section and a girls section. It's all one.
It's a section.
It's just a section of clothes. So you gotta look at the clothes and then be like, is this for
Like they don't even want you to know to be able to know.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is crazy. That's crazy, right?
It's an abomination.
Okay, let's look at something else here, because I'm saying that this
or even on some of these, I would say, radical liberal parenting sites and groups, they'll call it gentle parenting, where you call your child
gentle.
they. Yeah, you call your child they or whatever.
That's crazy.
Until the child decides if it wants to be.
That's
As I
crazy.
said,
That's
if
child
it
abuse.
wants to be he or she, and then you use whatever pronouns they decide for themselves, so you don't quote unquote misgender them at birth just because of their genitals.
Let me say this. Let me say this right here. Let me say this.
This is a Direct Accord exclusive.
Gentle parenting is
Bad.
child abuse.
Bad.
Gentle parenting is child abuse.
Yeah.
I just want to just let that be known. That right there is the craziest thing that I've ever heard. And, we live in this time where it's normal to take something that the Most High has purposed to be away, and for these people to totally just mix up, the purpose of things. And so when we think about what this commandment is doing in terms of the misuse of things outside of their purpose, he's calling these things an abomination. He's calling these things an abomination. Yes, it's ridiculous. Listen, what they call it again? Gentle.
That's what they called it.
My parenting style is harsh, not gentle. It's not soft. It's hard. Okay?
Concrete.
It's hard like concrete. Yes, it's not abstract. It's hard like concrete, and it is concrete. It's not abstract, right? It is what it is. There's no blurred lines. But I want to continue in looking at things that the Most High calls an abomination, just to continue to show that the Most High calls things that are an abomination, things that are misused things outside of their created purpose. Read Deuteronomy 7:25 and 26.
The carved images of their mighty ones you are to burn with fire. Do not covet the silver or gold that is on them, nor take it for yourselves, lest you be snared by it, for it is an abomination to Yahweh your Elohim. And do not bring an abomination into your house, lest you be accursed like it. Utterly loathe it and utterly hate it, for it is accursed.
Idolatry, again, is this hated thing. But again, what are you doing? You're placing your worship and directing it towards something that don't deserve it.
Yep.
Your adoration and devotion and worship needs to be only directed towards the Most High. And so for you to sit up here and carve an image and make a thing and then worship it is a misuse of things outside of its purpose. And the Most High calls this thing an abomination.
Yep.
And so when we talk about this in Deuteronomy 22 and verse, what verse is that? Verse 5. You know, I think that this is talking about the purpose of a man should be valiant and mighty.
Yep.
That's why it don't even just stop at calling him an Ish. It calls him a Geber because that's what he is.
Yeah.
He's mighty and valiant and strong.
Not a little weakling.
He's not a little
Effeminate.
weakling.
Effeminate.
He's not effeminate. Right? There's no sugar in his tank. Okay? And a woman should be a woman. And not the other way around. The woman should not be seeking to do and be as a man. She should be only seeking to do and be as a woman. You know, we don't want no masculine women, and we don't want no effeminate men. This is an abomination. It's an abomination to the Most High. He said, hate it. Hate this thing. Hate this thing. Proverbs. Look at what's Proverbs 16 say. Proverbs 16 verse 5. What does that say?
Everyone proud in heart is an abomination to Yahweh. Hand to hand, he goes not unpunished.
This thing that the Most High hates. He hates this thing. And so we have to look at these things that the Most High hates and deal with these things accordingly. Right? These things that the Most High calls an abomination, again, when we look at this verse over here, it's a serious thing because of the fact that look at what he's putting with it. This thing is an abomination to the Most High. He hates this thing. We're supposed to hate the things that the Most High hates.
Yep.
He said he goes not unpunished. This person who is dealing with this thing that's an abomination. And so the same thing is true when we think about what it says over in Deuteronomy, where, you know, when we really look at this thing and understand that it's more than the outer appearances. It's more than the outer appearances, but the actual distinction that, you know, again, we live in this time where the lines are blurred.
Yeah.
You really got to look at, you know, we have a natural distinction if we understand the Most High's way that he created us. We have a natural distinction. He's given us these things that grow out of our face. His beards.
Yeah.
Right? You know, but, you know, we live in this time where, you know, these lines are blurred. Men, I'm saying. Boys, you know, of course, boys don't have beards. Right? But they're because they're boys. Right? But men have beards. Right? They don't have baby faces. Right? And so we live in this society where the lines are blurred. You know, everything's mixed up. And these things to the Most High are an abomination. Right? He
Before-
literally hates these things.
Before beards was in style, it was homeless people look.
Well, that I think that goes in the kind of the up and downs of how things go over time.
Yeah.
You could look at, if you go back, yes, there's a time whenever people, well, I'm saying that it's a custom of, our oppressor
The shave.
to do that, to shave off all of your manliness, and for that to be a clean, and tidy look, right? But when you go back in time,
And then have beards.
men did have beards, right? When you look at some of these ancient relics,
They all have.
they had beards. It's interesting that some of them you look and they have how they're all look like how like a perm would look with those big old curls in it, and you would see the relics with the looks like curly like beards. I'm just saying we live into this society we live in today wants to take the lines and blur them. People talking about masculinity, and as if it's like this terrible thing. It isn't. It's the way that the Most High created for us as men to be. Again, we look at this verse over 22:5. He don't even just leave it at man, right? He makes it be this valiant warrior, right? He goes to the essence. He goes to the essence of the man, right? And is saying for this woman not to be. You shall not be that which pertains to the essence of the man.
Yeah.
Toxic masculinity. Is it toxic? Like, I don't understand even the phraseology of it, right? As if to say to be masculine is something that's toxic. No, it isn't. It's what you were created to be. You wasn't created to be as a man this soft, delicate thing. You was created to be rough and hard thing, valiant, right? Right? How is 100 Israelite men putting 10,000 to flight if they soft? You not, right? And so, all of these things, again, the Most High is saying is an abomination, right? He hates for there to be this blur, for there to be this thing where I can't tell the difference between this man and this woman, right? My wife was talking to me a while back about these people that she met, where this couple, this man and this woman that she met, that come to find out, it was both women. They was both women.
She had a beard.
But because of these
Hormones.
medicines and things, I can't even call them medicines.
Hormones.
This witchcraft that these people came up with. They came up with a way to cause a woman to have a beard.
And she cut her breasts off.
I feel like that is I feel like when we look at this thing, this verse over here is prophetic. This verse speaks outside of its time, all the way up into these wicked times that we're in, where a woman could literally cause herself to be in the vessel of a man. And we got these people who, it goes beyond cross-dressing, where people are transgender. They translate themselves from one gender to another. Transfer from one gender to the next. Most High calls that an abomination. Before they even had transgender, he was called an abomination. They didn't have no transgender back here when this was given. But the Most High wants for us to be able to know what we are and function the way that he created for us to function within our given genders. Yes, the false belief is real. The delusion is real out here in these streets. All right, let's keep on going.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
I think that the children, the minds of the children are the ones at the most risk, because it's now becoming normalized for them. So maybe they don't think that it's good for them to do it, but other people,
they should have a right to do whatever they
well,
want.
yeah, or
That's
just it's not wrong per se. It's just not something like they don't have like a abhorrence of the act necessarily, because it's been normalized.
Yeah. Right, and so they look at this thing where, like you said,
you could be an ally and not be.
They wouldn't do it, but they don't down anybody else for doing it.
Because they're an ally. They could be an ally without being.
Right, but so for me, I'm saying if you're an ally of my enemy, then you're my enemy. Right? The friend of my enemy is in fact my enemy. You can't say that you go along with these things that the Most High hates. You don't do it yourself, but I don't go along with it personally. The Most High said that we're supposed to hate these things. And so, if you're not hating the thing, you're in agreement with it. You're in agreement with it. You think about these so-called progressives. Even the term. Even the term, as far as I'm concerned, is offensive, because the things that people deem to be progressive thoughts is regressive. It takes you backwards. It takes you away from the Most High, who's the standard. If I want to label something as progressive, it's something that's pushing me forward. And if I'm going forward, I'm going towards my purpose, the thing that I was created to do. If we all, at some point, said that we're all going to, if all men are going to act like and be as women, and all women are going to act like and be like men, we cease to exist. We cease to exist at that point. Like the population dies at that point. Right? If we all decide that we're going to only just be with our own gender, I only love my own gender, and everyone does that, that's the end of That's the end of mankind. Like, I don't understand why this is not like why is this such a hard thing? The thing that you want to sit up here and propagate and normalize is something that could, at its height, at its final conclusion, causes us to cease to exist. How retarded is that? It's retarded. And I use that word on purpose.
Incorrect. But Africa asked me what will happen in the future, how people still have children. And that's why they want to do it all in the laboratory. Because if they do it in the laboratory, they could propagate mankind.
I know, but that's what you have to do. You have to do it in the laboratory. Because the parts don't fit. I mean, it's just as simple as that. So, these people are wicked. These people are, in fact, crazy. They want to have their cake and eat it too. But their cake, is a wicked cake. It's nasty. Their cake is nasty.
Disgusting.
It's detestable, right? It's an abhorrence. It's abominable. All right, so let's keep on going over here. Let's read again. Let's look at 6 and 7.
When you come upon a bird's nest along the way, in any tree or on the ground, with young ones or eggs, with the mother sitting on the young or on the eggs, do not take the mother with the young. Let the mother go without fail, and take the young for yourself, so that it might be well with you, and that you shall prolong your days.
Okay, very good. So,
Yeah.
okay, so when we look at this over here, we see that this is said to be the least. This is said to be the least of the commandments by the rabbis. This is the least of the commandments. But when we look at its promise, it's prophetic. But when we look at his promise, it's prophetic. So even though we look at this thing that could be called the least of the commandments, it's still within it has this thing that's attached to it. That is something that not many commands have connected to it. The idea of prolonging the days. But when we look at the commandment in general, in terms of what it is saying, right? When we see this bird's nest along the way, in any tree, on the ground, with eggs or young ones in it. Don't take the mother and the young. You could take the young, or you can take the eggs, but don't take the mother. And so when we think about this, first of all, I don't know why you take the young or the eggs if it's not chicken.
Yeah.
By the way, because there's not many eggs. There's not many eggs that we eat.
No.
There's not many eggs that we eat. We don't really eat baby birds. Do we eat baby birds? I don't know what baby birds we eat.
Tastes like.
Right, we eat the unfertilized eggs, and we don't do anything with the
Babies.
with the babies, with the chicks.
Yeah.
But there's something that we can look at in terms of this this act here, which we can, I would say, think about in regards to our stewardship over the created things. This I feel like this has everything to do. I feel like this has everything to do with the control of, of the population of birds.
Mm. Yeah.
Certain birds, right? Because again, when we think about eggs that we would take, what would be the purpose of our taking of the eggs?
Yeah.
Or the young. We don't eat young birds. Nobody's eating young birds. There's probably no meat on it. Right? Eggs you might take for eating. But I'm saying that, to me, when I look at this, it has everything to do with the idea of kind of maintaining or kind of putting limits on the existence of these particular birds. Would be the only reason why you would take its young away. But even by doing that, you still leave the mother bird there, who's able to create again. Right? So the mother is still able to continue in its purpose. And so when we look over at this, again, when I look at this, there's things that we see that I want to talk about, but let's look over here at what it says in Isaiah 65. Read for us 8 and 9.
8 and 9 says, Thus said Yahweh, as the new wine is found in the cluster, and one shall say, do not destroy it, for there is blessing in it. So I do for my servants' sake, not to destroy them all.
8 and 9.
Oh, and I shall bring forth a seed from Jacob, and from Yehuda, an heir of my mountains, and my chosen ones shall inherit it, and my servants dwell there.
Okay, so when we look over here and see what the Most High does with Israel, there were those times when the sons of Israel were taken, were destroyed, but still they were not all destroyed, right? The ability for the people was, still maintained, even though we have these times in history where we see that Israel parts of Israel were destroyed. But we know that the Most High does in fact have a chosen people who he has made a way for his people to in fact continue. And so when we look at Deuteronomy 22 6 and 7, when it talks about this egg or the young ones and his mother, yes, he allows for the young ones to be taken, to be destroyed even. But he doesn't take away the ability for more to come later. And also, again, look at this, even though we think about this command is thought of as being this least of the commandments. It has this great promise that's attached to it. So let's look at some other commands. Maybe we see some similarities over here with between this, what we see over in Deuteronomy 22 6 and 7 and other places where it talks about the prolonging of your days, right? Because again, we're talking about this idea of saving the mother and taking the young ones or the eggs. And when you do this, when you let the mother go and you take the young for yourselves, it says, in order that, so that it may be well with you and that you may prolong your days. So let's go over to Exodus chapter 20. Exodus 20. Read verse 12.
Respect your father and your mother, so that your days are prolonged upon the soil which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you.
Respect your father and mother, so that your days may be prolonged. Okay, when you think about this, of course, this is, from a natural perspective, right? Respect your father and mother so that they don't take you out. Right? I brought you into this world. I'll take you out. Respect your father and mother so that your days are prolonged. Right? But again, when we think about the commandments, when we think about the way in which the Most High even creates this nation, you must have Exodus chapter 20 verse 12 to propagate the nation. Because if you have the children who don't respect their father and mothers and the teachings that they receive from their fathers and their mothers, the nation can't be prolonged. The nation comes to an end. The nation comes to be in the place where we live at even right now is in even just right now. Because we live in a society that don't respect the ways of the fathers and mothers of the people who are the people of the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's our ways to teach our young the ways of the Most High. And so we have to teach them the ways, but the children have to respect those ways so that your days are prolonged upon the soil. And so it's interesting that when we think about the connection between Exodus chapter 20 and 12
Yes.
and Deuteronomy 22, 6 and 7, the
Yes.
thing that is the same more than just the words have your days be prolonged, but you have the ability for the propagation of the family.
Yeah.
The nation can't continue if the children don't respect the ways of the parents.
Especially out here. Right now.
I mean,
They learning.
right now, when we look at, the state of the people, our future selves, brothers and sisters, those people, the brothers and sisters of our future selves, those people are in a state of total chaos and debauchery because there's no respect for the ways that they don't know that they lost. And so, their days upon the soil are not prolonged, right? From a natural or a spiritual sense. All right, let's look at also Deuteronomy 4, 25 and 26. Verses 25 and 26.
When you bring forth children and grandchildren, and shall grow old in the land, and shall do corruptly, and make a carved image in the form of whatever, and shall do what is evil in the eyes of Yahweh your Elohim, to provoke him, I shall call the heavens and earth to witness against you on that day, that you soon completely perish from the land which you pass over the Jordan to possess. You do not prolong your days in it, but are completely destroyed.
Look at that. Now we see over there where we see this, the prolonging of your days over here, but this is the antithesis of that. Lo, prolong your days. No prolonging of the days. Why? Because of the breakdown in the process, right? You bring forth the children and the grandchildren, and they grow in the land, and they get corrupted. At some point, they don't respect their parents. At some point, the parents don't properly teach the children. At some point, there's a breakdown in the continuity of the standards that the Most High creates. And so, again, when we think about Deuteronomy 22 and 6 and 7, the continuity is there. Right, the ability for there to continue, for the family to continue to grow, is still there. You don't destroy the ability for the family to continue to grow. The way that that's destroyed is to destroy the continuity. Right? And in this case, we're talking about the idea of the children not respecting their parents.
Yep.
The parents not doing their jobs to bring the children into line, right? That idea of what you call that thing again?
Oh, Elder Chris said toxic masculinity.
No, not
Oh,
that.
gentle parenting.
Gentle parenting. Gentle parenting brings about corruption in the land.
Absolutely.
You can't let the
It's
child
gonna
decide
cause
what they
it.
wanna
They're
do.
gonna always decide to do something that's wrong and wicked. That's what they're gonna decide to do.
Yep.
You got to tell them the right thing to do.
Yep.
And so by gentle parenting, you're essentially destroy the parent's ability to continue in the line of the family.
Right.
Gentle parenting kills the mother bird.
Absolutely.
Hold on a second here.
Oh, you gonna do that again?
Hold on.
This is a Direct Card exclusive.
Gentle parenting destroys the mother bird and the young ones or the eggs. You take away the ability of the mother bird to continue in the propagation of birds. And so when we take away the ability for the parents of our people to instill righteousness in our children, it's the same thing. You take the natural ability, the natural purpose away from the mama bird, and erase the ability for her to create future birds. I don't know what happened to the. Got out of focus. Oh, there we go.
Can I add some of that real quick?
Go ahead.
You know, we were in the nature documentaries, and even with science, they're still discovering new creatures and animals. So there's a documentary, plenty of documentaries about the ocean and sea life. And there was these birds, and when they hatch, it's like they go to a whole little island, and there's all these little birds, and it's all the parents when they hatch. All the parents are teaching these little birds how to fly and how just to live. And then because the parents are going to fly away when the time, you know. And so these birds, they're right next to these predators, these crazy predators. Like these fish jump 20 feet in the air to get these birds. It's just it's a spectacle. So we're watching it and there's just
Like dangerous.
Yeah. So the birds are teaching, they're literally yelling at them. Like, they're like, you need to fly. You need to get up. And they're like pecking them. And like, the little birds, they never flew. So they get tired quick and they're landing. So, but the birds is getting eaten. These big fish is coming up at like 50 miles an hour, jumping in the air and taking them out. But if that hardness is not put into them, they won't survive.
Yeah.
They won't, be able to manage that. So it's, you can't. It's not soft. This being pushed on that straight path, it's effort and work, and it's not easy.
Yeah. And so it's interesting that we see a connection in these commandments that talk about the idea of prolonging your days. The connection between all of them, the similar thread that is woven between all of these things is built in the ability for the continuance of either the particular animal or the people, right? And the animals situation, of course, if you take away its young, you still what remains is the ability for more young to be able to come forth, so that your days may be prolonged. It's interesting that when we allow for the animals' days in terms of its species, we don't take away its ability to prolong itself. We bring about the ability for ourselves to be prolonged. But again, I think that when we look at this, it's kind of it's this prophetic almost thing that, you know, again connects it to these other things, that the doing of the Most High's laws, statutes, and commands, not only doing them, but the continuance of doing these things in terms of placing these things into our children, and having for our children to continue in those things, prolonging the days of the individual and prolonging the life of the nation. Read verse 40 over to us.
For and you shall guard his laws and his commands, which I command you today, so that it is well with you and with your children after you, and so that you prolong your days on the soil which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you for all time.
Okay, again, we see the connection here with this prolonging of your days being connected with the continuing of walking out the ways of the Most High. Not destroying the ability for the Most High's purposes to be brought forth. All right, let's keep on going here. Let's drop down. Let's drop down. Oh, first of all, we got to go back to 22. 22. We look at verse 8. We look at verse 8, where it talks about building a new house. This is not a OSHA manual, right? This is not about occupational safety hazards and compliances and whatnot, right? But when we think about this, it's interesting that this is even in here. When you build a house, make sure that on the roof there's a fence, that there's guardrails, so that the builders don't fall off and die while they're building your new house, so that you don't bring blood guilt on your brand new house when somebody falls off of it. So you can't get the neighborhood roofing guy to come fix your house who don't have the proper safety materials, who gonna fall off of the roof, your roof, and die.
I was afraid of that guy. This is interesting because I was literally afraid the guy was gonna fall off.
He was showing me the pictures of the thing that was wrong up there. And he said, well, this is the best I could do because I didn't have nowhere to tie off. So I had to keep one hand on the ladder.
What?
And take the picture with my other hand because I didn't have that to tie off to. But it's interesting that when we look at this, that there's a responsibility. There's a responsibility that lies in the person who is the owner of the home, and people who come into his situation. I think about this in the wintertime. right? Even though it's kind of a customary, kind of decent thing to do to shovel the snow in front of your house in the winter, I feel like it's also fulfilling a Torah command, because on your property, you're not causing there to be this hazard that could cause somebody else to get hurt as they're walking through your situation.
That's why we put salt down on Shabbat.
Even on Shabbat, we have our sidewalk shoveled. And I'm only saying we have our sidewalk shovel because Hizky does it. I don't partake in such things any longer. But we adults, we parents have our sidewalk shovel because there's a command being kept, even in doing so, because you're preventing somebody from hurting themselves as they walk by your property. You know, it's the same thing as what we see over here. These people, this parapet, this fence on your roof. If somebody out of their negligence while they're working slip and fall and die while they're fixing your roof, it says you make sure that there's fences on the roof so that you don't bring blood guilt on your house if somebody falls from it. And so, you know, this principle, you know, it goes beyond, you know, just the idea of fences on a roof. And also, I think it also even goes back to the idea of this this knowledge that we receive. You know, there's somebody who is in, just like when we talked about the ox and the sheep. There's somebody who's in a dangerous position. And it's your responsibility when they step into your situation, your sphere, when they become somebody who interact with you, you become responsible for relaying a particular message to them, a message of safety. Right? A message of security. Right? A message that prevents them from imminent danger and destruction. This verse over here, verse 8, helps me to understand that I have to speak the gospel to people who come into my situation. Because once they step into my situation, I become responsible to relay something to them for their own good.
We also go back to loving your neighbor as you love yourself.
Exactly.
If you're going things you would want done for you, would you not want to be informed of danger? Would you not put yourself in dangerous situations? Well, same for your neighbor.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly the same thing. And so it's interesting now when we look at these commandments, which kind of, when you look at them, there's a specificness to them. But when we think about it from a spiritual perspective, we're able to link it back to these principles that we're able to understand in regards to bringing forth the message of Yeshua, which at the end of the day is the greatest of fences that help for us to remain in these safe places. Okay, let's keep on going. Let's drop down. Let's see what this time is. Okay, let's drop down to 12. Let's read again verse let me see. Verse 12.
Let me read it. Uh, 22 and
Oh,
12?
hold on. Let me push that up. Sorry. Right there, yeah.
It says, make tassels on the four corners of the garments which you cover yourself.
Yeah, it's just okay, very good. So we think about verse 12 where it gives us the idea of these tassels. Over here is a different word that's not always used over here. The gedil, which means twisting or thread or tassel. The Strong's uses this word festoon, which is something in imitation of garland or a wreath. Being suspended by the ends or the extremities on which hang down and perpendicularly, right? And so when we think about these tassels on the four corners of the garments which you cover yourself, again, it's a different word. It's a different word than what we've seen over in Numbers 15 and 38, but it's not. It carries the same meaning, right? It's talking about the same thing. It's still talking about the tassels, and again, it's interesting. It's interesting that when we see over here in verse 12, where it talks about the four corners of your garments. Four corners, you think about a square. When in fact, probably the clothes that people wore was a square with some holes cut out for your head.
And it being on a sash.
The tassels, yeah. But I'm saying the garments. I was talking about the four corners. It probably was. It probably was a square. But also we see the idea of four corners can also be kind of euphemistic in terms of the borders. Because we could talk about the four corners of the earth, right? And we know that the earth is not it's not a block, right? It's not a square. It's it's a sphere.
Now the tassels here. I think the word was locks, kind of like similar to Samson's locks.
What word? You talk about in this verse here?
I don't know if it's in this one or if it's in the Numbers one, but it's the same word that's used for Samson's locks.
Let's see if it's this one.
Here.
This one's used 2 times here in 1 Kings 7 and 17. Samson would have been in Judges,
Yeah.
so this can't be it.
So it must be, it's another one then. But that to be said that I'm very heavy on it being tassels and not necessarily fringes anciently.
Yeah, when you look at the ancient pictures of the people, it doesn't look necessarily like how what the people. It probably looked more so like, you know, a thing that kind of
Locks
went around them
hanging down.
and had these four. Because this word here, even though we know that your clothes weren't necessarily squared off, this word over here literally is four.
Mm-hmm.
This literally is four here, which is what, arba.
Arba.
Mm-hmm. So it literally is four here. And so you had this thing where you put it around your body, which covered your borders, which again kind of typified the that you cover yourself. You know, it dealt with the covering that the commandments, because the tassels were the thing that you look towards to remind you of the commandments. This covering that the commandments provide, and when we kind of look at kind of how you know this particular chapter, kind of a ongoing theme with this thing in terms of the continuance of the character of the Most High, you know, outside of your own personal situation, right? Because when we think about the tassels, we look at our tassels, and it reminds us to keep the commandments. But also, it's a thing that other people can also are able to look at and see the same things that you see, and they might not get the same thing out of it, where it's not causing them to keep commandments because you're doing it, but it could potentially cause them to look and be like, why is they got that? What's that thing hanging up off of you?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why you got these fringes that hang down?
And there's certain groups that have specific looking ones. Like I saw a guy at Aldi, and I knew exactly where he fellowshiped because that's the way their tassels look.
Oh, you were talking about the ZZ, because that word ZZ
is locked.
is a forelock of hair.
Yeah.
Not a number 4, but a frontal 4 lock. Okay, so we have that in here, sprinkled in with the others commands. Let's see.
What you got to say about if anything about women wearing these things? Do you have anything to say?
Well, when you look at it from a traditional standpoint, this command that's given, you know, people make it be over for, you know, kind of a both kind of a thing where a man is human. But I don't know if it's always that. Because from a traditional standpoint, it's understood that this is commandment towards the men. Even when you think about the dress, right? Because of the way that the tassels were affixed to you. It was the thing that was around your waist. But the woman necessarily didn't have a thing that was around her waist. She had the long flowy thing. She had her long flowy thing, and the belt was the thing that the man had. And so the thing that was around his waist was the thing that was around, that had his tassels on it. It's a thing that is done now because people look at it and they say, that is,
Israel, and that means all.
they make it be that, but from a historical standpoint, I don't know that that's the case. That the women, that this was a woman's commandment. Not to say that, if she's not breaking any commands by doing it, but I don't know if she's breaking any commands by not doing it either, because from a historical standpoint, I don't know that, she did it in the first place. Because, again, that thing that kind of differentiated the one from the other was the belt. Because the woman, the man and the woman had the same clothes, basically. They wore the same things. You just had this cloak over your body. Like the man, he wore what we would look at, we would call it a dress today. Right? But when he had to get down, he took up this thing and he tucked it into the thing that, that went around his loins, which was also the thing that his tassels hung down off of. And so, again, when we think about some of these things, it's some of the way that we think about things becomes different because we're thinking about things in terms of now. And the only way that we can understand the thing is with our own minds and the experiences that we've experienced. Mm-hmm. And so, it becomes necessary for you to go back to really know and look, and see what the people were doing at these times. But I think the greater thing to be understood here is, what is it that these commandments are seeking to cause you to do? And so, at the end of the day, the wearing of these tassels is something that pictures for us the spirit that lives inside of us. Because the tassels was the thing that you looked at and it caused you to do the commandments. It caused you to remember that you were supposed to be looking above, to the Most High. And so now when we think about what it is that, where we get our help from, is from the Ruach HaKodesh that dwells on the inside of us. We have to look towards the Spirit to cause us to, to walk in righteousness. I just want to look at one more thing before we go ahead and be done here, because when we look at the last few, well, maybe not the last few verses, but towards the end, in verses 20 through actually two more things quickly with verses 20 through 22, where these things that are done so that you can purge the evil from among you. Where it talks about here, just read again verses 20 and 21.
It says, then they shall bring out the girl to the door of her father's house, and the men of the city shall stone her to death with stones, because she has done wickedness in Israel, to whore in her father's house. Thus you shall purge the evil from your midst. When a man is found laying with a woman married to a husband, then both of them shall die, both the man that lay with the woman and the woman. Thus you shall purge the evil from Israel.
Okay, we have this idea over here of this thing that's being done that, is worthy of death. And the fact that seeing how the scriptures help us to understand that the Most High, it says in Deuteronomy 4 and 24 that Yahweh is a consuming fire. Well, he consumes that which is against him, right? He burns it up. And so this word over here, purge, carries that same idea to put away here. This is it here. I think it's this 74. No, it's this 1197 word here. Ba'ar, to kindle or to consume by fire. If you're ba'aring the evil, if you're consuming it by fire, you're totally destroying it. Right? When you burn something up, it leaves nothing left but the ashes. Really just a kind of a remembrance of what it was. Right? You're totally doing away with that thing. And so when we think about in the scriptures where, again, we think about Israel as a nation where, there's these things that go on that are dealt with. Nobody's just saying, well, that's just how they are. Nobody's just saying, well, they just, they're different. They're kind of quirky. Right? It said to purge the evil from your midst, to consume it, that evil, like fire, right? To stone these people to death. And so when we think about that, let's look over in 1 Corinthians. Let's look at 2 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians 6, 14 down through 18.
It says, do not become unevenly yoked with unbelievers. For what partnership has righteousness and and lawlessness? And what fellowship has light with darkness? And what agreement has Messiah with Belial? Or what part does a believer have with a unbeliever? Or what union has the dwelling place of Elohim with idols? For you are a dwelling place of the living Elohim. As Elohim has said, I shall dwell in them and walk among them, and I shall be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. Therefore come out from among them and be separate, as Yahweh said Yahweh. And do not touch what is unclean, and I shall receive you. And I shall be a father to you, and you shall be sons and daughters to me, and God Almighty.
Okay, very good. So when we look at this, understanding that, this is really the same idea that we see over here with Deuteronomy 22, where you're purging out the evil, right? In terms of the nation, in terms of those that are called to be part of the commonwealth of Israel. There's certain things that just don't belong, right? Where we aren't, being with, joining ourselves to those that, are not walking in the character of the Most High. 1 Corinthians 5:11. What's that say?
But now I have written to you not to keep company with anyone called a brother, if he is one who whores, or greedy of gain, or an idolater, or a reviler, or a drunkard, or a swindler, not even to eat with such a one.
But this is the same principle, right? We can't be all messing around with keeping company with these people who are not exhibiting the character of the Most High.
And you condoning it if you ain't.
You saying that these things is okay.
Mm-hmm.
People gonna look at you and think that you part of them, or that it's something that you agree with. And so, we have to be about the business of purging the evil from among us, right? We might do it in a different way. We're not taking people out in the middle of the courtyard and stoning them.
Mm-hmm.
But from a principle standpoint, we're making a separation, right? We speak out against those things which are contrary to the Most High and the way that He would have for things to do, right? We don't sit up here and co-sign on these things that fit inside of these categories. We're making a distinction. Again, it's kind of like what we talked about earlier. It's about making a distinction between things, right? Just like the Most High wants there to be a distinction between the men and the women, He wants there to be a distinction between right and wrong, right? Between righteousness and wickedness. He wants there to be a distinction. We can't have all of these things all just blurred together, where we don't know what's what. Right? Right. We got to know what it is to be set apart and what isn't. What is set apart and what isn't. Right? It can't be like these gray areas. The Most High, He's not about grays. He's about black and white. Mm-hmm. Right? He's about hot or cold. He's about on or off. He's about up or down. He's not in the middle.
He's not the author of confusion, because that's confusion.
It is confusion, right? If it's gray, it's murky. What is it?
Yeah.
What is it? Either I can see through it or I can't. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not these things, these blurred things. And so, we can't be out here. It's interesting that He's talking about these people that are called a brother. But yet, these things that they're doing is not brotherly like.
Yeah.
Right? It's the opposite of it.
Yeah.
Right? He said, don't eat with such a one. And we talk about eating with, it's not just about like it's, fellowship. It was like the epitome of fellowship was to share a meal with somebody, right? And so it's saying you don't have fellowship with these people, right? Because they're not really part of you. And so again, that's just part of the Most High wanting to maintain distinctions, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, I want to just end off with this point over here. Back in 22. 22, verse 23 and 24.
Says when a girl who is a maiden is engaged to her husband, and a man find her in the city, and lies with her, then you shall bring them both out of the gate of that city, and shall stone them to death with stones. The girl, because she did not cry out in the city, and the man, because he has humbled his neighbor's wife. Thus shall you shall purge the evil from your midst.
Okay, very good. We're still on this vein of purging the evil from the midst. But the thing that I wanted to kind of just talk about real quick was the fact that it's interesting when we look at 22, 24, the woman, first of all, they're both stoned because she didn't cry out. Right? The one who does cry out, then she's not guilty. Right? But the one who doesn't cry out, then she is guilty. They're both guilty. But the thing that I wanted to focus on was the fact that this maiden who's engaged, this maiden who is betrothed to a husband. She's promised to a husband, but not yet married. Right? But here, let me just see this real quick. 23, betrothed, engaged, matrimony, betrothed, espoused. But when we get down to 24, what do that say? That says the neighbors. They're probably these. Let's see what word that is. Isha, or his woman, right? It's translated as wife, but it's basically the neighbor's woman. But the idea is that she might as well have been his wife because they were betrothed, right? And so there is importance. There is a great importance to the idea of betrothal in Israel. The betrothal is binding. Even though we know that that word doesn't literally mean wife, it is his neighbor's woman. That's his neighbor's woman. Right? What does this say? What word is this here? Oh, that word is Raya, which is brother, companion, fellow, friend, husband, lover, neighbor, associate. But the possession of the woman is the neighbor's, right? And so there is a binding thing that happens over here. They're bound to one another, right? At that phase in the situation. And when we think about, where we are in terms of our relationship to Yeshua, he said he's going to go away to prepare a place. And when he returns, that's when the wedding is, right? But even now, we are betrothed to the master. We're bound to the master, right? And so for us to go outside of that binding is punishable by death, even though the marriage has not been consummated. When we go outside of the binding, even though the marriage has not been consummated, the punishment is death, as if we were all the way married, because we were all the way betrothed to the master. And so, when you think about people and their ideas of, what this relationship is, I think that it's important for us to be able to understand the importance of who Yeshua is to us. Because this society we live in now, we think about proposals or engagements, I should say. We think about these engagements, these things can be called off, right? I was engaged to this guy, but it found out that he wasn't all that, so we called off the engagement. Right? There ain't no calling off the engagement of this thing over here. Right? You're bound. Right? That lady in Deuteronomy 22 might have said in her mind that she called off the engagement. But it really wasn't called off.
It don't go like that.
It wasn't called off. It was still on. And she paid. Well, it maybe was off because she dies. So that's how it was off. Right? And so when we think about our relationship with the master, right? He, in fact, is our master. We look towards him for the things that we do. Right? We don't choose, we don't make our own decisions anymore. We look to the decisions that we know that he would have for us to be doing, and we do that because we have been betrothed to the master already. We are what Deuteronomy 24 refers to as the neighbors. We're the wife. We're the property, the possession of another. Now, even though he has not come to gather us into himself as of yet. I want to finish up over in Hosea. Hosea 2. What's it say in verse 19 and 20?
And I shall take you as a bride unto me forever, and take you as a bride unto me in righteousness, and in right ruling, and loving commitment, and compassion. And I shall take you as a bride unto me in trustworthiness, and you shall know Yahweh.
Okay, very good. This translation says, take you as a bride. What does it say over here? What word is this? Same word as before. Betrothed. He said, I shall take you as a bride unto me forever. But it says bride over here, but that's our word betrothed. Forever. Right? And so when we think about this word, the word is a binding thing. Ain't no breaking it off. Ain't no breaking this thing off. Ain't no, well, as soon as we had the ceremony, then that seals the deal. That don't seal the deal. It's already been sealed. He said, I take you as a what's this word here? Aras. Forever. I shall take you as a aras unto me in trustworthiness, and you shall know Yahweh.
And if you want to leave, till death do us part. That's how it works. That's the only way out.
And then we saw that. We saw that because the girl, she wanted to leave. That's why she got killed, because she shouldn't have never been with this guy somewhere. And if he was trying to take her, then she should have cried out. But she didn't cry out. She was quiet. And she tried to keep it a secret. But it wasn't no secret. They got found out and they got killed. Right? And so, we have to understand that, this, when we sit up here and say that we are going to make Yeshua be our Lord and Master, our Master and our Savior, we're committing ourselves to the Master. We're betrothing ourselves to Him forever.
It's serious.
It is serious.
People make these declarations that when they get baptized, it's like
they don't even understand the severity of the situation.
It's like a lifetime.
Like
commitment.
you sitting up here, pledging your allegiance to the Most High. Meanwhile, you never counted the cost because you're sitting up here pledging your allegiance to Him. Meanwhile, you still got these other things that you are essentially married to, that you worship. And so again, when we think about this relationship that we have with Messiah, with the Master, it's interesting that, when we look at this verse over here, when we think about back in Deuteronomy, where it talks about this betrothed maiden, that she essentially is a wife already, right? And so, that's where we are, even right now. Like, we are possessed by Messiah, right? He is our possessor. He is our owner, right? And so, he has to be the leading and guiding force in all the things that we do, as we move forward. Okay. All right. So, do we have any last minute questions, comments, or anything over here? Comment section. All right.
I have
So,
a comment.
go ahead.
Going back to the ZT command. What I tell women who want to wear the ZT, either if they do it tassels or fringes, is they should look like a Hebrew woman when they do it.
Yes.
Because otherwise it sends a mixed message.
Yeah.
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 So that's the main
Yeah.
the main thing.
It's a hard thing whenever, again, when we deal with, people in this society that we live in, that, there's so many wrong things that we've learned about, and dress is a big issue.
It is.
It's a huge issue. Modesty is something that people don't know anything about. They don't know anything about it. And it's a hard thing. It's a terribly hard thing. And people just have to be able to be unlearned from so many things. And even that's part of the whole idea of the distinctions. Not only did the woman look like a woman, she looked like a particular type of woman. Not a harlot. Right?
Yeah.
She wasn't advertising anything. She wasn't a walking billboard. Right? But when we look at, the way that, these people are out here, they're advertising themselves
Well, people
sexually.
people don't understand, like, everything you do has energy associated with it. So even how you dress, it conveys a message some way, somehow. Like everything we do is transferring some type of information or energy. And it's like a modest person look a certain way. It's universal.
Look modest.
Because nowadays it's like, why? Who you to tell me whatever? That's not what it means. I'm comfortable with me, and it's not. You shouldn't feel uncomfortable because I'm comfortable. And that's how people think. It's just about how they feel or how it is, but they're not understanding that it's an actual energy behind it.
Yeah.
And it affects everybody.
It affects me. The way that you're comfortable is affecting me. Your comfortableness is causing me to be uncomfortable.
Right.
Well, I can't even look at you. I want to talk to you, but I can't.
You got the problem now. Now you a big. You need to go. You need to go get checked out.
You're exposing yourself to me and think I'm supposed to take you seriously.
Take you serious.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But this is the world that we live in. If we could only just this is how we just take it all the way back to the beginning. This is how we, look out here and see our people that are literally, they've lost their livelihood and don't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be the ones
Tell them that they
of truth. We have to restore to these people what was lost. Their treasure has been given to us. Their treasure has been given to us for us to return back to them. And that's how we got to be able to look at things. People, they're out there and they feel like they're doing what they should be doing, but we look at the verse. The people are out here and they've been blinded by the God of this world. And they think that it's just all about, how they feel about something and, what makes them feel good. But the devil's the one that told you that lie in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The people they forsake emotion for logic. So it's like,
And they two different things.
yeah,
Two different things all together. The way something makes you feel has nothing to do with
what it
logic.
actually is. Yeah.
And with the way things that and we can't be robots about things. Things make you feel a certain kind of way.
Right.
But that has no bearing on the rightness or wrongness of a thing.
Right.
The way something makes you feel. Some wicked, perverse thing could make me feel good.
Right.
But that don't make it any less wicked or perverse.
Right.
Right? And so, but the only way back to understanding these things is to be able to align ourselves with the divine purpose that the Most High has given to each and every one of us.
Exactly.
So that our light gets turned on, so that our salt gets activated, and so that we begin to affect the world around us positively. And so, that's what this thing's all about. All right, so that being said, I guess for now we will be done for today. Thank everybody for their comments in additions to the situation. Make sure everybody in here, make sure that you have subscribed to the channel, share the video, hit the thumbs up button, hit that notification button. And y'all willing, we will be back on next Shabbat to continue on with the study of the Torah. Right. So that being said, we'll say for now,
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.